really have any funny intro, I just like that part of the song a lot. Anyways, Ys is a game you can play. Originally developed in 1987 by a game company known as Nihon Falcom. It's one of the most important games that's not really heavily talked about, because it's a starting point for the action RPG genre. This game marked the start of a very long and ongoing series that's actually still getting entries to this day. And while it is somewhat of a niche pick, I honestly think this might be my favorite game series of them all, because every game in the series is consistently, at the very least, decent. And in fact, most of them are good. Or even better than good. Amazing even. But we're not going to go and talk about those right now. This video is going to focus on the first game in the series. Or, well, the remake of it that was made for the PSP back in 2009 and was later ported to the PC, and you can now get it on Steam and Good Old Games. Now, why do I play this instead of the 1987 version? Well, because this is, first off, the version I own, and second off, it's not worth trying to get old PC games to run on new computers. You will lose your mind doing that. But that's enough talking for now. I'll just let the rest of the intro play out. Now, the 2009 remake starts out a bit differently from the 1987 version of the game, because in this remake, we actually start waking up injured in the hospital bed. Why exactly are we injured? Well... a cool little detail I actually like is that you can see Adol only has 7 HP right now instead of his full health bar. That to show he is injured. It's just a neat little way of combining gameplay with story. After the intro's over, you can talk to the doctor and the nurse, and they will say you're good to go, but they would recommend you talk to Slav before you leave the village. So, I'd say let's do that. An optional objective, but something that I think is very worth doing, is going around the village and talking to everybody. And that also means exhausting all of their dialogue if they're an NPC with multiple different prompts. Because you get a pretty good reward at the end of it, and you get to learn a bit more about the world of Asteria, which is the continent this game takes place on. Slav is included among those NPCs, and talking to him you'll learn about Darm Tower, which is a important area we'll be going to later. And once you've exhausted all the dialogue in this village, you get yourself a free short sword, which is going to save you a lot of money and gives you a pretty good boost to attack this early on in the game, considering there's only 4 weapons. Leaving the village, we can now get into combat, and combat in this game is very simple. All you need to do is run into enemies and you will automatically attack them. It's something known as the bump system. Is it archaic? Yes, but to be fair, this was when games were still trying to figure out what they wanted to do, so I give it a pass. And it's the idea that just don't attack enemies head on, because then you'll take damage as well. Now, you'll also notice with every enemy you kill, your experience goes up, because this is in fact an RPG. So after a short trek north, we finally reach the town of Manea. And it's an old game, so obviously you want to talk to NPCs, however, I'll give you guys some direction. Go to the southwest and talk to Sarah the Fortune Teller. This is where you'll get your first objective, to start looking for the Books of Ys, but she says, hey, you may want to get prepared first, because this is going to be a dangerous journey, and it kind of is. So going to the equipment shop, you can actually buy your armor and also a short sword, but we already have one, so who cares? More importantly will be your armor, which for now just get the chainmail, and if you can, get yourself a small shield. Now in a lot of RPGs, this would just be a minor stat increase, not really worth considering, but in a game like Ys, the defense boost you get is considerable and it will save your life. So I'd recommend try to get your money up as best you can. Now as it currently stands, we're a few coins short of being able to afford a shield, so I'd say your best option is to head out to the fields and kill a few enemies to get some money. And something I like about this game is when you kill enemies, they won't just fade out, they will turn into giblets. Returning to Sarah gives us our objective to go to the northeast to find our first Book of Ys. Along the way, enough enemies have been killed that you get your first level up. And level ups aren't just a minor stat boost in this game, you become significantly stronger with each level you gain, which is good because the level cap is 10. Anyways, welcome to Lepik Village. Go talk with the Elder for a little side quest. He'll mention that the silver bell that was designed to keep monsters away has been stolen by a man in a black cape. Now this is hinted to be the main antagonist and final boss of this game, but as you'll find out in the second game, that's actually a lie. But either way, you'll want to head north and go to the thieves' hideout. Taking the mountain trail, we come across the night enemies, which are meant to be the game's way of saying, hey, you should consider leveling up, but since we're already level 2, they go down pretty easily, and they give some nice golden experience for how easy they are to take out. Once you reach the Thieves' Den, you'll talk to the boss of the Thieves Guild, and that's where you'll learn that they didn't steal the silver bells, or any of the silver in the Asteria, but it was another mysterious figure, and you'll want to head to the shrine. But first you should go back to Lepik Village and talk with Jeba. Speaking with Jeba, she will tell you that the first Book of Ys that you're looking for is going to be in the depths of the Northern Shrine. And she also gives you the key so you can actually go in there. For being the first dungeon, there's really not that much to the shrine. There's not really even any enemies in here. You just interact with the golden statue to warp inside, and then you'll go, and there's 2 treasure chests you can get. One of which contains a ruby, which only exists to be sold. The other one is a bit more interesting, as it's a locked chest. Now, we won't be able to open that for a little bit, but once we do, it's going to have some pretty good items in it. And you will really want it. Trust me on this. We reach the door that requires the shrine key, and it's time for our first boss. Well, that was anticlimactic. Oh. Well, I guess there's a little bit more to this place. Okay, so actually Genocrest wasn't the end of the shrine, he was the opening act. Now we're in the proper dungeon, and here you'll notice you can no longer heal naturally when you're inside a dungeon, at least not without a specific item. You can run around a bit and kill some enemies, but this place is a lot more dangerous than any area in the overworld, so be careful. Where you'll really want to go is to the right of the first floor. And you'll see a prison cell, but also the enemies here give quite a bit of gold for taking out, and you can take them out in one hit after you've leveled up a time or two. More importantly, you'll find a girl named Fina. She's been trapped here by the mysterious figure. Talk to her for a bit, and you'll be given the chance to rescue her and get her out of here. Say hello, boys and girls, to the one and only escort mission in the game. It's thankfully not as bad as it sounds. Now, you'll want to get the treasure chest because it contains the Mask of Eyes, which allows you to go through secret passageways, but you want to get Fina back to town. Interestingly, she actually can kill an enemy and even level up, and you'll get an achievement for that, but it requires the use of a very specific item to do so, so we won't worry about that for this playthrough. Get her back to town, and she will collapse from exhaustion. Probably after being held in a dungeon for so long. So we take her to Java's house, where she'll be kept safe. Now, back in the shrine, we reach the basement floor. Well, the second basement floor. And now the real pain begins. There's two items you're really going to want to find down here before you go any deeper into this dungeon. The first is in a chest that looks like it's been pried open somewhat. You'll find the treasure box key, so you can now open all the locked treasure boxes you've come across in the world. The second, and perhaps more importantly, is the silver bells that you were told about earlier. Let's take them back to the Elder. Giving the silver bells back to the Elder, he will be overjoyed and thank you for your efforts and will reward you with your first accessory, the power ring. How good is this item? It doubles your attack stat. Yeah, doubles. That's amazing. And while we're doing little side content, you can use the wing item to instantly teleport back to Minea, and if you talk to the nurse Lisa, you'll be able to purchase medicine, which is a full heal item that you can use one time. And if you run out, you can always purchase more. It's good to keep in mind for the longer dungeon hunts. Now, that was nice, but more importantly, head back to Barbado and speak with Slav again. After you've been fighting some of the tough battles, he has a little reward for you. Something you'll find quite helpful. Slav will take you to the armory, and he will reward you with the Talwar, one of the strongest weapons in the game, this early. A little bit of backtracking can really go a long way now, can't it? Before we continue, if you head back to the peak, you can actually go and find Fina has recovered, and if you talk to her, you'll get a bit more world building. It's not required, but it is a cool little cutscene that's nice that it's there. Anyways, back in the shrine, on the third floor, the enemies are a lot tougher, so hopefully you got the Talwar and the power ring. It'll make your life much easier. There are 3 major items you really want to get, 2 of which are required to access the boss, 1 of which is just nice to have. The first required item is going to be up in the top left, and that is the ivory key. Now, the next item requires a little bit of warping to get to, but it's the silver shield. This is the best shield in the entire game, and you're getting it in the first proper dungeon. There's a second one in this game, but it's not available until literally the final dungeon, so we won't worry about that right now. The last item can be a little bit tricky to find. You'll need to use the Mask of Eyes and access that one warp statue in this small hallway in particular. Kill the 2 night enemies and you'll find the marble key. Now we can access the boss. Now, with the marble and ivory keys in hand, we actually get our first warning of a boss fight. And it's time for Natilger. Yeah, I'm not going to do the same joke I did the first time around with Ginocrus, because this fight's actually okay. It's fast paced, all he really does is charge at you, but it's tougher than anything else up to this point in the game, and he actually has enough HP that you will need to be careful. But after about a minute, you'll be able to bring the centipede down, and, well, notice the crack in the wall. Yeah, it's a hidden room, to the surprise of no one. Open the treasure chest, and we have our first Book of Ys. Now we can go back to Sarah. Hope you have a wing with you. Now, either a quick warp or a long walk back to Minea, we can go see Sarah and tell her the good news. Except there's a problem. As we learn from the old man friends, Sarah was murdered while we were gone. Thankfully, she left us with something. The second book of Ys. Well, that sucks, but now we're given a new destination. We're going to be told the area we want to head to is the abandoned mine at Raston, which earlier in the game Slav told us was a city that had been destroyed a few months back by monsters. So, cool bit of world building. Before heading out, talk to this girl up in the top right, named Rhea. She's talking about how her silver harmonica was stolen, and yeah, we can probably get it back for her. It's on the way, so you may as well do it. Raston Mine is another dungeon you'll go into twice, and I hate to say it, I don't have much advice for this place. It's in the northwest area of the game, but it's dark and you can't really see where you're going. You'll want to navigate this place as best you can though, because it has some good items, one of which is the silver armor, which you will need to beat this game. Well, it's not required, but if you want to keep your sanity, you want it. Otherwise, there are some other really helpful things here, like the healing ring, which allows you to regenerate HP anywhere, even inside of dungeons. Very helpful, especially for the final area of the game. And then there is the silver harmonica that Rhea was talking about. Now, we can go back now and continue the storyline, but I'd recommend try to find the REUPLOAD seed, because this will help you get a really strong weapon in a little bit. At this point, you're good to warp out. So, either walk or use your wing to get out and speak to Rhea. She'll be very happy that you gave her her silver harmonica, and she will play a song for you. And with this, we get to enjoy, well, in my opinion, a really nice cutscene. And yes, the giant tree was a clue. Hey Rhea, has anyone ever told you look an awful lot like this girl named Fina we found inside a dungeon? Now, you could follow the vague hints that the game gives you to find the Great REUPLOAD tree, or you could just go north 2 screens, then go east to screen, and then go south, and you'll see the giant tree. And a cutscene plays when you interact with it, but nothing happens. That's because we need to actually use the REUPLOAD tree fruit. This will allow us to understand and interact with the tree, as weird as that sounds. Whatever, I've played enough Secret of Mana, I've seen weirder. After that cutscene's over, you get one of the 2 silver swords in the game. This weapon is what the final boss is weak to, and it's the strongest weapon you're going to find outside of the final dungeon. Get it now. Back to Raston Mines and back to some aimless wandering. The stairway down is actually going to be on the inside, innermost area of the cave, so keep that in mind when you're trying to get down there. You'll come across a door that has an odd crest. It's a boss gate, but we can't open it yet because we don't have the boss key. So, time to wander through the dark again. Oh, also these enemies are very strong. Upon wandering, I actually kill a Phoenix enemy, and I reach the max level in the game, which, okay. Kinda surprising it happened that early, but you're gonna need it for an upcoming fight. So I guess it's better we got it done now than later. And after more aimless wandering, we finally get the Darb key so we can go fight the boss of the dungeon. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, make a backup save now, and prepare for pain, because it's time for one of the hardest fights in the entire game. Vagilon might just be the worst boss in the game. Well, probably second worst, but this is the boss fight most people are going to absolutely despise, because you can only hurt him during the brief moments that his body comes together and reforms. And that is not a very long time frame. Thankfully, after about 7 attempts, I was able to take him down and get the fight over with. Before continuing, you'll want to get yourself your third book of Ys, and we're good to head back, but if you want a little bit of something extra, you can head up through this door and see this room with 2 pedestals and a mysterious door. We never actually go through that in this game, so I guess that's a mystery we'll have to solve in the sequel. Now, with our third book in hand, we don't really have too much direction on where to go at the moment, but you're going to want to head back to the Peak Village because you'll notice Fina is out staring at the ocean and mentioning she's thankful that we saved her, but she still doesn't have her memories back and she kind of doesn't care anymore. That's pretty much it for her plot in this game, but we'll see more in the next one. More importantly, you'll want to go speak with Jeba because she'll tell you about the books of Ys, and well, you need to inform her of her daughter being killed. Yeah, not the happiest of subjects. But when you speak to her again, well, you can ask her to read the books of Ys for you, and this will give you the information you need to know. Believe it or not, at this point, we are approaching the point of no return. The next area to go is the Thieves' Den, and then heading up into Darm Tower. But first, make sure you get whatever side quests you want to get done. I would recommend at least picking up the silver equipment and probably getting all the rings you can, especially the power ring because that one will give you a massive attack boost, and the healing ring because that will make your survivability much better. Goban will say you can now enter the final dungeon, but he'll also warn you, once you go in, there's no coming out. And he'll also take away your wing because he tells you, well, the story reason is if you were to use it inside, you would basically just get merged into the walls and then crushed to death. Pretty brutal to think about. But let's not worry about that too much and head on in. Welcome to the final dungeon of the game. And it is a long one. I'm not kidding when I say about a third of the game takes place here in this one dungeon. So I'm going to try to give you a rundown on each floor as best I can. Floor 1 is very basic. You just fight a few enemies and try to find the stairs to the end. Nothing crazy here, but we're just starting out. Floor 2 has a small treasure room. It contains a healing potion and the evil ring. Now, the other rings give you great benefits. The evil ring kills you. That's kind of hilarious, but you're going to need it for later. Floor 3 has nothing of note right now except for these Red Knight enemies that are kind of dangerous. But if you haven't reached the level cap yet, these guys will get you there no problem. Now, floor 5 seems pretty boring at first because most of the chests are empty and there's not really any crazy gimmicks here. However, there's a couple of different exits to get out. Now, the leftmost exit is the one to progress, but you're going to want to take the right exit first because this will get you a little bit of extra equipment that you might want to consider getting. That side path, however, will take you to floor 6's offshoot, and you can get yourself the large shield, which is a downgrade from the silver shield. So why do we need it? Well, because the main path has a trap. You get sent back to the basement floor, and all of your silver gear has been taken. So make sure you equip something now, or you're going to be in for a rude awakening soon. Also, while we're down here, you can meet with another character, Luda Gemma. We could have actually met him in the world beforehand, but I think I either missed the trigger or it's completely random, because I don't know what causes you to encounter him. But you find out that he somehow managed to sleepwalk here and not get killed, which is impressive in its own right. And, well, just keep him in mind because he's going to be important. Oh, and we also get a hint that, yes, somebody else has been in this tower as well. In fact, 3 other people are. One of those 3 people, after waiting for a little bit, is Dogi, one of the most important characters in the entire series, and Adol's best friend, and his introduction is him being the Kool-Aid Man. He breaks the wall to get you out of there, and with this, we have to make our way back up the tower. Exhaust Dogi's dialogue, and he'll give you the idol, which is important because back in floor 3, you use the Mask of Eyes, and this will introduce you to a new character named Raba. Talk to him for a bit, and if you give him back his idol, then he will give you a very helpful item, the blue necklace, which is an accessory that doesn't take up an equipment slot and it nullifies curses. We're gonna need it. Now, with our blue necklace in hand and our ability to null curses, we can get past the trap and we can make our way forward. Now, floor 7 actually has a couple of important things, so you'll want to keep the lookout. First off, you can speak with Dogi and you'll get a bit more history about him and his past. And, well, you learn more of your reasons for why you're in the tower, why he's in the tower, and he'll warn you, hey, there's some really strong monsters up ahead, so you may want to get ready. And he also found something that might be of interest to you. That something is your silver sword, which you're going to need if you want to kill the final boss without losing your sanity. Floor 8 doesn't have anything except a boss door. It's time. Sorry, I just happen to really love that theme. Anyways, Pictomos is one of the toughest fights in the game that doesn't dip over into being unfair because you need to attack him from the sides, and as he loses HP, he actually becomes a bit more conservative when he fires off his sickles to attack you. It's not too bad though, and it's a good little test to see if you're ready for the end game. If you have the silver sword, it shouldn't take too long, but if you only have the Talwar, this is your hint that, hey, maybe you should go back and look for your better weapon. There's something you're missing. But once he's down, we get to find out that this dungeon also holds 3 of the Books of Ys. Oh, and it also holds one other item, the hammer, which you'll use exactly 1 time in the game, but you kinda have to use it. With Pictomos dead, we can move on. Floor 9 doesn't have any crazy gimmicks, but you will find the silver shield, and upon getting it, these statues come to life to attack you. Floor 10 is just another floor with multiple offshoots, one of which is the required path, and that's not going to work, so instead squeeze into the side door and speak with Raba again. He'll tell you, hey, we need to destroy these pillars, but before that, go into the other side room and you'll see a trail of blood leading to Luda, injured but alive. Keep in mind where he is, we'll need to come back here later. Oh, he also warns us that a girl was kidnapped and brought here as well, so we'll need to find her while we're here. After that, look around for the pillars and use the hammer on it until you find one that actually breaks. That will stop the Hall of Death. Floor 12 is boring and doesn't have a dang thing on it, so just walk to the end. Floor 13 has this interesting Hall of Mirrors gimmick going on, but we can't interact with them yet because we don't have the correct item to do so. To speak with Raba, he'll tell you his idol was broken, and you'll want to take the exit off to the left, which takes us to a small offshoot. Why do we want to do that? Well, take a guess. Yeah, we come into another dark room, and as you make your way down, you'll see another boss door. Now, while I consider the fight against Pictomos to be pretty good, I don't have anything nice to say about Consulard because it is completely luck-based. If you want to know how to beat him, Honestly, you just bum rush him and hope he dies before you do. A lot of the time, you're gonna be the one who dies first. Yeah. Now, you'd think maybe running in circles is the best move, but actually what you'll want to do is do little figure eights inside his body because you'll be able to hit him more and you don't bounce off him like you do other bosses. If you have the silver sword, the silver shield equipped, and the reflex, you should be able to do enough damage and outlast him before he goes down, at least on normal and hard mode. On nightmare mode, you're just going to need to get lucky. Taking him out will net us our next Book of Ys. Fun fact, the first chest you open in these boss rooms will always get you a Book of Ys. And the second one will get you the rod. Now, we can finally interact with those mirrors. So it's time for honestly one of the best parts of the last dungeon. But we'll get to that in a bit. First, we need to talk to Rappa again. With the rod in hand, we can finally interact with the mirrors. So now, it's time to begin our journey through the Hall of Mirrors itself. There's two ways through. The way to progress and the way to the silver armor. Now first, I'm going to show you the way to the silver armor because you're going to need it. Well, it's not required, but it'll help you a lot. Also, I stopped to heal a couple of times because at the end of this Hall of Mirrors, you do have a bit of a mini boss fight against this knight right here. It's not too hard, but in a tight space, he can hit like a truck. Now, we have the silver armor, and that is going to save our lives. Now for actual progress, this is the route you need to take. And then the real trick, you need to go back through the mirror you just came through to reach the final stairway. It's diabolical, and I actually forgot about it for a second. Floor 15 is pretty unremarkable outside of the Hall of Mirrors area, but you will find yourself the battle shield, the strongest shield in the game, kinda. Floor 16 tricks you into thinking you need to make progress, but actually you need to go to the southernmost part of the room and take the Sky Bridge area because this will take you to the offshoot of the tower. Welcome to a mini dungeon inside of a dungeon. Rado's Annex. It's actually not that long at all. It just has these slightly annoying slime dog enemy things, and then you get a really cool little isometric staircase bit that you climb up, and we have a door that only someone with an evil heart can open. So, how do we open it? Well, remember that evil ring you got all the way back on the second floor? I certainly hope you got it, otherwise you're gonna be walking a long way down, my friend. You need to use that in order to open the door and make progress. But equipping the evil ring kills you, so you need to make sure you have on the blue necklace as well, in order to stop the curse from, well, killing you. Now, after we open the door, we find out that the girl who we heard was kidnapped was none other than Rhea herself. We learn that she was raised by Sarah, at least after she was found, and she knows a bit more about the Books of Ys and tries to help us out some. Now, the final boss of the game has a cape that repels anything that's not made of Claria, which is silver, and that's why the villains were taking up all the silver in the world. Now, talking to her some more, she'll give you two more things that you need to know. One is you'll get the monocle, which allows you to read the Books of Ys yourself, a necessary item to actually beat the game. And the second item that you'll need is, well, you're going to need to go back down to where you met with Luda, because he has something that you need to access the final part of the dungeon. I'm not the biggest fan of this. It's a bit too much old video gamey for me. It's kind of that whole ha gotcha sort of thing, but whatever. It's the only real instance of that in the game, so just get it and yeah, just walk your way down. It's going to take a few minutes. Returning back to floor 11, you speak with Luda again, and he'll be happy to hear that Rhea is safe. But then he'll recognize the books you have on you because one of them is similar to a family heirloom. If you check it, it's the Book of Gemma, his family name. Now, speaking with him after you've read the Book of Gemma, he will tell you a bit more about his family history, and he will give you an item known as the Blue Amulet. It's only needed for one area, but it's kind of just another necessary key item that you need to continue the game. And after you walked your way back up to floor 16 and floor 17, we can finally progress with no more backtracking left in this game. Now it's just a straight shot to the end, or a slightly curvy shot to the end. Because floor 17 sucks for this one hallway, where you just have to kill multiple of these enemy scorpions over and over again, and it's pretty much just an HP check. There's not much else you can do other than outdamage them and hope you live. That being said, there is an HP potion and a treasure chest at the end, so you can always use that to heal up. Floor 18 is unremarkable outside of two things. It has an offshoot, which does lead to a technically good item, and that item is the battle armor, the technically strongest armor in the game, but you really don't need it. Now, the other way it leads to is a quick and unremarkable floor, and then it's time for floor 20. Now, floor 20 has the walls break down and these monstrous enemies come at you. What you need to do is don't fight them. Instead, go inside and get the flame sword, which actually is a decent enough weapon for most enemies because it will pierce through heavily armored foes. However, it doesn't work too well on the final boss, so don't go throwing away the silver sword just yet. Floor 21 is the final proper floor of the game. And it's yet another warp maze, though this one honestly isn't very difficult. The big thing is it comes with two new enemies, the Eucreas and the red goblin lion enemy jackasses. The Bordish. Okay, that's what they're called. They're not really that remarkable. You'll want to have the flame sword to take them out, but they just kind of run at you. They don't have any other AI with them. It's not that dangerous for a final enemy. Otherwise, the route to the end is actually very simple. You barely do any warping at all. And before you know it, just make sure you take the correct path, which in this case is the left path. Go down and voila, there's the boss door. And it's time for the second to last boss fight of the game. Unlike some of the other fights, Yolgalx and Mulligan are definitely a much slower paced boss than the others, and it requires more patience, because every time you hit Yolgalx, at least I believe that's the correct one, I'm not quite sure which head is which, the two of them will change places, and only the yellow head actually takes damage. That being said, this is a fight that gets easier as it goes on, because for some reason the more damage they take, they start to lose their orbiting projectiles that they have as defenses. I'm not sure why, but hey, it's honestly kind of funny, so I'm not going to question it. This fight can be a long one, but if you have a little bit of patience, it's not too bad, and overall it's not even a bad fight in general. And with the blue amulet in tow, the mirror cracks, and we can access the endgame. Floors 22 through 25 are just a straight line. There's nothing else to say. It's your ascent to the final doorway and the final boss. With nothing left, we confront the final boss of the game and die almost instantly. The best equipment for this fight is not the ultimate equipment. It's the silver equipment that you've gotten throughout the game. That is how you survive. The silver shield and silver armor are the only way to realistically stand up to his magic for more than a couple seconds. And the silver sword is the only way you're going to pierce his defenses. Fighting against Artifact himself is actually pretty simple. All he does is bounce around the screen like an EDD logo and fire off half a ton of bullets. But every time you hit him, he will counter by causing the location you're currently standing to to explode. If you're under it when it happens, you'll turn it off. Be careful. Yeah, instant death isn't really the problem. The danger is you can get cut off in the arena and not have anywhere to go, but once you finally win, after potentially 50 attempts, congratulations, you've beaten the game. You just got one more thing to do. Examine Darkfax's cloak, which is a little bit finicky. You might need to throw the monocle on. I don't actually know about this entirely, but you will obtain the final Book of Ys. Now, one last thing to do, read the book. The game may be beaten, but the story's not yet over, because Ys 2 picks up immediately after this game leaves off. I hope to see you all then. Thank you for watching, and if you enjoyed, consider following for more content in the future. Because I'm crazy enough, I'm probably going to tackle this entire series sooner or later. Oh shit, I forgot.